This right here is just a hint of that ignorance still, right? It's like you're still stuck on this issue that's really not, it just doesn't do anything for Star Wars. Like it doesn't. Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. We're going to jump into something a little bit different today. We're going to talk about some important articles, obviously as it pertains to Star Wars, but more particularly, we're going to talk about something maybe a little bit controversial to some. We're going to talk about what Daisy Ridley feels is her future in Star Wars. And in the second article we're going to discuss, it's going to deal with Rian Johnson's commentary and a little bit of Kelly Marie Tran's commentary on essentially the departure of Kathleen Kennedy. And they're both very interesting articles because there's a lot of change coming to Star Wars. Now, for those of you who don't know, real quick, Dave Filoni and his co-partner are pretty much taking over in lieu of Kathleen Kennedy finally retiring. It's been something that's been talked about for many, many years now. It's something that many people have been looking forward to just because Star Wars has had a few misses, I guess you could say, you know, and a few is being nice in the last decade or so between games, movies, and films and whatnot. So they're clearly going, I mean, it could be a continued direction. It could be a new direction. We really don't know. Dave Filoni, he is a company man, right? He's worked for Lucasfilm pretty much most of his career. So, you know, but that's besides the point. So let's jump into this article today from USA Today by Ralphie Aversa, published on January 27th at 9:30 a.m. So this video is about, I want to say like a little less than 12 hours later. Article is titled, What Daisy Ridley Says About Her Star Wars Future and Lucasfilm Shakeup. Star Wars fans are questioning how the departure of Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy will affect the franchise. However, one of its stars doesn't believe Kennedy's resignation will change much. And this is coming from Daisy Ridley Direct. It won't affect me going forward if it were to be true. Daisy Ridley, who played Rey in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, told USA Today in December when asked if Kennedy's rumored exit would change Daisy Ridley's future with the franchise. The actress stopped by to promote her latest film, We Bury the Dead, weeks before Kennedy officially stepped down. I think what's lovely is people are excited because they want to see the films, which is great. Last February, The Hollywood Reporter reported that Kennedy would resign later in the year. Disney, which owns Lucasfilm, confirmed her exit on January 15th. Ridley laughed at the notion that even while she promotes films that are literally made, she can't talk about any potential future projects. At London Star Wars Celebration in 2023, Kennedy announced a new Star Wars movie, one of three, which will star Ridley, and fans have speculated about the timeline since, although Kennedy did caution that the studio was still in the very early days of development. Everything is so accessible now, it's really wonderful to be a part of something where people maybe don't know as much, Ridley said. And I love that people want to know, but it will be a great surprise then when the thing is done. She wouldn't elaborate on the thing, but if it's something that can eventually be seen in movie theaters or streamed on Disney+, it'll now fall under the purview of new leadership. Kennedy plans to transition back to full-time producing. She'll be succeeded by Dave Filoni, who will oversee creative as Lucasfilm president, while Lin-Wen Brennan will serve as co-president. As for any potential timeline of Ridley's return to Star Wars, the actress offered a maybe when asked if news could break this year. I don't know about 2026, she said. In the future sometime, yeah. So, pretty interesting, right? You know, she said she's not going to be affected, which I think is problematic because, so this is really interesting, right? Because I don't think people are as excited as they think people are excited. So let's do a quick mock poll. If you want to see Daisy Ridley's Rey trilogy as conceived by this previous iteration of Lucasfilm, type 1 in the comments below and why. And if you don't want to see it, type 2 and let me know your response to that as well. I personally, I'm on the side of 2. I think they should move away from these characters. I think these characters are damaged, and I think there are better stories they could tell a little further off into the timeline or before timeline, right? Going back to the Old Republic, not the High Republic, because the High Republic was a mess. Well, not maybe a mess, but it just wasn't that great, right? It wasn't compelling. Maybe the Old Republic, something like that. So definitely comment down below, you know, if you want it or if you don't want it. And, you know, it's almost like a tad arrogant that you feel like there's this big departure happening and you're safe. But that could also mean that Dave Filoni is the company man, that Brennan is the company woman, and they're basically going to continue on with this project that's conceived allegedly by Kathleen Kennedy, right? It could be conceived by, you know, the board, the suits, whatever you want to call them, right? The white shirts. That could very well be the case, which would be a shame because I think to make that trilogy would just show how out of touch you are with the fandom. Like, no one's asking for that. But let's move on to the second article. And the reason I want to talk about this article too from Variety is because it ties into Daisy Ridley, right? Because Daisy Ridley was the star of the sequel trilogy. And we're going to get commentary too about Kathleen Kennedy from the director of The Last Jedi, the infamous Last Jedi, Rian Johnson himself. So article's titled, Rian Johnson hopes Star Wars brings in fresh voices and filmmakers to tell new stories in that world as Kathleen Kennedy exits Lucasfilm by Zach Sharf, January 25th, 4:06 p.m., so 2 days ago. Rian Johnson is excited to see what Kathleen Kennedy does next after stepping down at the head of Lucasfilm. Kennedy, who took charge of the Star Wars franchise after George Lucas handpicked her to run Lucasfilm 14 years ago, wow, I can't believe it's been 14 years, that's absolutely nuts, announced her studio exit earlier this month. She's being replaced by, again, Dave Filoni, Lin Brennan. Quote, "I love Kathy. I'm excited now to see what she does next," Johnson said at the Variety studio presented by Audible. Why am I reading ads? While in Sundance as an executive producer on The Only Living Pickpocket in New York. As a Star Wars fan, the most exciting thing for me is always seeing when they bring in fresh voices and fresh filmmakers to come in and tell new stories in that world. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing more happen, which is interesting, right? Because when they recruited Rian Johnson, he wanted to make his own, original concept in Star Wars. And Kathleen Kennedy said, hey, hold that, do this. Johnson directed Star Wars The Last Jedi and set up the experience. I had the time of my life doing it. I'm now an even bigger Star Wars fan than I was going into it. I would feel blessed if that were to ever happen again. Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in Star Wars The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, who might I add, a very nice person, but the character is just, it's an awful character. Like, it's really not good. The character is purposeless, and the character takes away from Finn's arc with Rey, and just Finn's arc in general. Like, that whole arc on, even though Canto Bight I think is really cool, that whole arc in and of itself was just like kind of pointless, and the character is just not great. So anyway, was also on the ground in Sundance promoting the new movie Rock Springs. Asked at the Variety studio about what Kennedy's leadership meant to her, Tran said, "It's, quote, such a loss that the Star Wars franchise is losing her. She's had an incredible career," Tran said. "To have someone who is not just a woman, but who is so capable in that role for so long and is historic, I think that is such a loss, but I'm very happy for all the life changes she's making." Again, I think these people are stuck in the past. Like, my honest opinion, I think you cast for the betterment of the film, not because someone is X or someone is Y or someone is Z, right? You cast for the betterment of the film. You bring in the best directors, the best producers for the betterment of the film to produce the best product that fans will love the most, right? And I think this right here is just a hint of that ignorance still, right? It's like you're still stuck on this issue that's really not, it just doesn't do anything for Star Wars. Like, it doesn't. They cast Rey as a lead, had a lot of female presence, which I have a younger sister. I want my sister to be, she doesn't want to be an actress, but if she did, I would want her to have the same opportunity as me, right? Just because I'm a guy or girl, it shouldn't make a difference. But I think they did this thing where that became such a big piece of why you were being casted or chosen, and less about the talent or less about the script, right? Because that's what it should be about. And I think that has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. So I guess Kathleen Kennedy did trailblaze for women, right? For sure, right? It's very historic, right? Kathleen Kennedy is an older person, so she did probably deal with a lot of different kinds of sexism and, glass ceiling stuff on the come up. But 2026, I think it's a little bit of a different story. So I just think that's like an odd comment to make, among other things. She did have an incredible career, but I would disagree and say that losing her might not be a loss to Star Wars. It's hard to say. There was an article that came out a long time ago, or I don't know if it was an article or a leak, but pretty much a leak was like Kathleen Kennedy really wasn't the problem the whole time. It was actually like Disney CEOs, it was the board and stuff like that. And there's a hint of that in the Force Awakens documentary. One of the first things she mentions is like, we had to get rid of I can't remember one of the original script writers, but she mentions like, oh, we had to like pretty much move on from him because we had to meet these hard deadlines. So it could just be that Kathleen was the scapegoat, but regardless if you're the scapegoat or not, like, you are the leader, and when something bad happens, the leader takes the hit. It's just how our society functions, unfortunately. You could read between the lines and make a different determination for yourself, but that's at least how I see it. I think if you make mistakes, if you take things south and you're in a leadership role, I think you are held responsible to some degree. And has Kathy really been held responsible? She held her post for 14 years. It seems like she kind of went out on her own, when she wanted to. So let's finish up the article here. After 2017's The Last Jedi, Johnson was set to develop another Star Wars trilogy, but the project never got off the ground, and Johnson moved on to writing and directing his Knives Out trilogy. In her exit interview with Deadline, Kennedy explained that Johnson never returned to Star Wars franchise because the Knives Out movies ate up a huge amount of time. She also claimed that he got a little scared by the fan backlash to The Last Jedi, which is something Johnson then denied on X by posting, "LOL, zero spooked, sorry." So absolutely, The Last Jedi backlash was intense, and it's still intense to this day. Like, we're still here talking about it. That movie came out almost 10 years ago. I think 2017 will be the 10-year anniversary. And, it's not something I talk about too much on the channel because so many people have harped on it. But my big opinion on The Last Jedi is that The Last Jedi, honestly, is really like 2 or 3 tweaks away from being an awesome film. Tweaks being, get rid of Mary Poppins Leia, make Luke more positive, have some sort of reunion with the original trilogy characters, and fix the Canto Bight stuff, and maybe get rid of Rose Tico's character and fix that with something else. It just wasn't a good character. So they're really like 3 or 4 tweaks away from being a fantastic film, because everything else in the film I liked. Cinematography was great. Dialogue was very good. You know, it challenged you in a way that Star Wars hadn't challenged you in a long time, in terms of, you know, being a little bit different, not being so predictable and stuff like that. So I give him credit for trying, but I think where Kathleen Kennedy messed up is that she didn't like rein him in a little bit. You got to rein him in. He was going a little too crazy, and he kind of had carte blanche when making the films. So it's interesting to see, you know, these big proponents of these movies, you know, talking about the person who made it all possible for them, right? They're not going to say bad stuff, because Kathleen kind of made their life career, right? Regardless if we like the films or not, these people are set on the backs of having done that film, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, so they're not going to say anything bad. But it's very interesting to see that Daisy is so confident that she's going to get this trilogy, and her confidence to me means that that trilogy is happening. As for Rian Johnson coming back, I don't think that's happening because of the backlash, right? I can understand why he's a little scared and stuff like that. Not completely his fault, right, to some degree. But again, it's interesting to see the commentary between, I would say, the 3 biggest people of these films, right? The 3 biggest people of sequels is really, it's Daisy Ridley, who played Rey, director Rian Johnson, right, who had the most pivotal movie, right, the middle film, and a lot that goes on there that changes Star Wars forever. And then Rose Tico, who's kind of like this generation's Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar, at least Jar Jar's funny. Like Rose Tico, the character is just, it's tough, you know. So there are definitely some parallels between now and then. So I don't know, maybe we should be easier, maybe we shouldn't. I would encourage that everyone be respectful to these people, right? These people are just doing a job like anyone else doing a job, and they're doing the best they can. And whether or not the product comes out the way we want is really not up to us, and it's not up to them. It's just the way the chips fall. So, you know, I think we should give them some grace for that as well. So I wish Kathleen Kennedy best of luck in the rest of her career. I know she's never going to watch this video, and I know they could really give a damn about what some random little mini YouTuber who's doing this as a side hobby thinks. But I do, you know, wish them well. And the same thing for Kelly Marie Tran, the same thing for Rian Johnson, the same thing for Rey. And who knows? Listen, prove me wrong. Come back and make a banger. Everyone, come back, reprise your roles, make a freaking banger, right? Make a freaking banger and make me eat my words. I would love that, because I love Star Wars so much that I'd rather eat crow and watch you guys make the most awesome thing than you guys make a crap product, and I have to sit here and be like, dude, what are these guys doing to my most beloved franchise? That's just where I stand on that. So with that being said, you know, a little bit of a different video. I don't really do too many of the article reading videos, but if you guys want more of that content, definitely let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to vote on that mini poll we did with the Daisy Ridley stuff. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Check out my content library. I have everything from theories to AI reactions to article videos to comic reviews. I even have like 1 or 2 podcasts, I think, as well. Toy reviews, you name it, saber reviews. Everything's in the channel. It's there for you guys. I love doing this stuff so much. And without you guys, you know, it wouldn't be possible, because I wouldn't be as motivated. I have such a great time connecting with you all. So that being said, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, stay safe out there. May the Force be with you always. I'll catch you in the next one.